Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on grants for translation and promotion of Swedish literature and drama. My name is Susanne Bergström Larsson, and I'm the head of the Swedish Literature Exchange Office at the Swedish Arts Council in Stockholm. During these past 18 months, it's been impossible to travel and meet you all in person, and many of our planned activities were, of course, cancelled. However, we have kept on working with the core of our mission to continue supporting Swedish literature and drama in translation via our grants. We were very happy to be able to raise the budget for the translation grant with 30% this year, which gives us even more stable ground for our aims. We also took the opportunity to write new guidelines for all the grants to make it clearer what we support and how the applications are handled. All these guidelines are published on the website for each of the grants. And today, my colleague Maria Antas and I will tell you some of the things that are new and give you some tips on what to think of when applying for these grants. I should also tell you that since this is a webinar through Teams Live, you will only be able to ask questions in writing in the chat box. So please write your questions and we will answer them after the presentation. But now I'm handing over the screen to Maria Antas, who will tell you about the translation grants. Over to you, Maria.
Thank you, Susanne. Yes, it would be so lovely to really meet you somewhere out in the world. And before heading to telling you about our translation grants, I'll just tell you that we will go to the Frankfurt Book Fair, Susanne and I. So maybe we could meet up there later this fall. But for now, for today, in this webinar, I will focus on giving you some information about the translation grant. There are lots of things that could be said about this support program, but I will try to keep it as simple and clear as possible, and you are, of course, very welcome to ask questions in the end or send me questions if you have some more information that you wish to receive. Our next deadline is rather soon. It is on September 28th, and we, as always, welcome applications for all literary genres for adult and young readers, and including drama for stage performance. During this session, I will mention some of the key information when it comes to our translation grants program. Thereafter, I will present a few numbers to give you an idea of the demand we are facing and mention a few changes we have made this year. And in the end, I will point out some do's and don'ts for you to consider when you submit an application and what happens after you have hopefully received a grant. I hope this will give helpful insights in our work and how we can cooperate together to make things as smooth as ever possible. And never hesitate to contact me for any answers this presentation today cannot give you. At our disposal at the Swedish Arts Council, we have translation grants and grants for production costs, with 3 deadlines per year. You will receive a notification about the outcome about 8 weeks after the deadline, and you will have 1 year time to publish the book. In these uncertain times, we do understand that schedules might need to be changed. And if you are facing this kind of problem, then just contact us and we can set a new, later and reasonable date for your report. For your report, we need to receive 4 copies of the book and a form that the translator fills out, and where he states that she has been fully paid according to the fee that was set in the mutually signed agreement. We are very strict on this point. And if a publisher pays, for instance, just the amount that it has been granted from the Swedish Arts Council, we will not pay the grant at all. Some numbers. We look back on the previous year with a very special gratitude. Never before had we received so many applications as in year 2020, all in all for 606 projects, of which 351 were accepted. Due to this high demand, the Swedish Arts Council decided to allocate more funding to the translation grant program this year. As Susanne mentioned, 30% more money for translation grant. So far this year, the number of applications remain on a level we know from earlier years, and we are therefore counting on supporting all book projects of sufficient literary quality with an amount that covers around 50 to 55% of the actual translation costs. In some cases, where the translation fee is moderate, as for children's picture book, we are able to cover up to 100% of the translator's fee. Another change we made this year concerns the support for production costs. Until now, the maximum amount a publisher could apply for was 10,000 Swedish kronor, but you are now able to apply for up to 20,000 Swedish kronor. Please note, you can apply for a grant for production costs only for fully illustrated 4-color books, as for children's picture books and comics. For comics, you can apply for a production grant also for black and white pictures, since the costs can be high for other reasons, for instance, for hand lettering. I need to point out that neither our translation nor our production grants can be awarded to how-to books, guidebooks, catalogs, or purely academic works and the likes. Then a few words on best practices to help you and to help us. All applications need to be submitted through the online system of the Swedish Arts Council. We have received feedback that the procedure is quite user-friendly, so please feel confident that you will be able to handle it as well. If you nevertheless face technical problems, you are most welcome to contact our support staff at support@kulturad.se. You will find this address elsewhere as well. Our support team has already heard all possible questions and always have good answers to them. A tip. When contacting us, please always mention your case number, which ensures that we are indeed discussing the same application. Regarding how to apply, you find information in writing on our homepage, so I will therefore today focus on aspects that sometimes complicate the process we wish to be as smooth as possible. When you apply, some documents need to be enclosed alongside the application form. Please take care that you have them prepared when submitting your application. The following attachments are compulsory. A mutually signed copy of the agreement with the rights holder. A mutually signed copy of the agreement with the translator. And I add to this that electronic signatures are of course accepted. The third attachment you need to have at hand is the translator's CV, particularly with all her previous translations from Swedish or Norwegian or Danish, since these languages are so closely connected. The fourth and very important attachment is a proper PDF of the book in Swedish original that you apply a translation grant for. Our grants committee reads all the original works in order to assess the quality of the book and illustrations if needed. It saves so much time and effort for all of us if you are submitting the application and the attachments at the same time. So please prepare them in time. Then some do's and don'ts, and now I will sound like a teacher, but I know from experience that these points are sometimes a little troublesome in the process. Important number 1. The book you have applied a grant for cannot be published until you have learned about the possible grant, since you always need to print an acknowledgement about the awarded grant in the book. If you do not add the information about the grant, we will not reimburse the grant to you at all. So be careful in your schedule and in the printing procedure. Never ever forget to add information about the Swedish Arts Council grant in your own local language. And if you are a Nordic publisher, please note. You need to print an acknowledgement that the grant was awarded by the Nordic Council of Ministers and print their logo in the book, not the Swedish Arts Council logo. Be careful. Important number 2. Alongside the formal decision about an awarded grant, you will receive a document with the headline Conditions for Grants from the Swedish Arts Council. It sounds dull. It sounds like a formal legal document stating your obligations, which it is, of course. But it also contains practical information and instructions about how to report about a finalized book project, how to proceed if your plans change, and how the wiring process of the grant will be handled. Always save this in a safe place where you easily find it, and read it and use it. Important number 3. We are considering changes in our report procedure, but as for now, you need to send 4 copies of the book to the Swedish Arts Council. Unfortunately, we often have problems with these book parcels. They are sometimes sent back to the publisher. To avoid this, therefore, always attach the customs clearance ticket called CN22 on your parcel, CN22. This information is also mentioned in our document with conditions and instructions, but it needs to be stressed. We do not want to have parcels sent back and forth between countries. Then a few words about the assessment of applications, because we know this really interests all applicants. What happens when the application is submitted? The demand for grants for the translation of Swedish literature is much higher than the financial means we have at our disposal. If we continue to aim at covering around 55% of the actual translation costs. The tool we have for making the selection is the Grants Committee's joint assessment of the literary quality of each book. It is the outspoken task of the Swedish Arts Council to focus on supporting projects of high artistic value. This said, applications for books of all genres are welcome. Crime novels and more entertaining fiction are not rejected automatically, but are read and assessed equally to other books in each round. In the Grants Committee, we have expertise also in commercial fiction and its conventions. In the final assessment round, the Grants Committee has some guidelines for their priorities. Focused rather on contemporary than classics, priority of new languages areas, consideration on prospects of the book to sell reasonably well without the state support, new names for new markets. And in the final assessment, we also take into consideration the quality of the application and its arguments and the publisher's plans for the book. So please submit only applications that are complete and give a good picture of why you need the grant. If you're wondering about which books that have previously been awarded a grant and that are likely to receive a grant also in upcoming rounds, we have a full list on our homepage. It is in user-friendly Excel format to make it searchable according to different criteria. These were my best tips for applications and life after the applications. I wish you good luck and hand over to my colleague Susanne again.
Thank you, Maria. So let's talk about other possibilities to apply for grants. Apart from the translation and production grant, we have a grant called Grants for Promotion of Swedish Literature and Drama. And this is a possibility if you're planning a release for a Swedish book in translation, if you intend to invite a Swedish author or illustrator to a festival or a book fair, or if the next focus of your literary magazine is Swedish literature, or if you want to arrange an event around Swedish literature or drama, if you want to arrange reading events, for example. We support approximately 60 events each year, taking place all over the world. Mainly events where a Swedish author is part of the marketing or release of the new book or attending a festival. But we also support other kind of projects like translation seminars or other international exchanges. And of course, these past 18 months, we have seen much less applications during the pandemic, of course, since every festival has been cancelled and traveling hasn't been possible. We have a budget of 2.5 million Swedish kronor per year. And as I said, about 60 projects a year are funded. You can apply 4 times each year. And it takes about 6 weeks until you get the decision after the deadline. And you get paid directly after you get the application approved. So what can we support? You can apply for all costs in connection to the event. For example, travel costs or accommodation or both, fees to the authors and marketing costs. It could also cover translation costs in connection with reading events or publications of thematic magazines or other kind of publications. Of course, we have a limited budget, so usually we can cover only a part of the cost that you apply for. So it could be a good idea to also secure some complementary or some extra funding from somewhere else. We advise you to be quite specific in the budget part, because it's good for us to see what kind of costs you would like us to cover. For example, we cannot cover costs for the whole festival or the whole event if there are other parts in it than just the Swedish author. So that's a reminder. And as I said, you can apply 4 times each year, but it's open all year round, so you don't have to wait until a few weeks before deadline. It's always good to send in your application when you feel ready to do it. We don't have an external grant committee, but we have a group at the office of experts who evaluate these applications. So yes, make sure you apply well in advance, because you cannot apply for something that has already taken place. So that's also good to have in mind. So what are we looking at when evaluating these applications? We have many criteria, of course, with a focus on professionalism, experience, and financial need. And we give priority to events around contemporary literature instead of, for example, classical literature, because that's a theme for all our grants, actually. We also look at keeping a great diversity in genres, languages, countries, and authors, of course. So this could be a good idea to have in mind when you also apply for the translation grant, to know that you will always be able to apply for a grant to invite the author once the book is published. But if you have any questions about this, of course, you're welcome to contact us at any time. But as I said before, our guidelines are published on our website also, where you can read much more about the criteria and the evaluation process and all those kind of things. You will also be able to see approved projects, which could also give you an idea of kind of events or projects we support. So that's also good to have. Always go to the website. That's my strongest advice. Well, that said, I think I will end this presentation and see if we have any questions, because you must have a lot of questions already. So Matilda, do you have any questions in the chat box?
Yes, there is one question, and I will read it now. So, will the recording of the slides be available offline afterwards?
Yes, we will post this recording on our website. So, but we will also send it to you via email afterwards for all of you who attended this. So that was a short answer to a short question. So do we have any other questions about this? I cannot see the chat box myself.
No, there are no other questions, but you're very welcome to write.
Okay, so if we don't have any more questions, do you want to add something, Maria?
Actually, I do not think so. There was a lot to digest, I assume, and once you are starting to work with your applications, your very concrete answers may arise, and I just repeat my invitation to stay in touch or establish contact with me, and I'd be very, very happy to help you.
Yes, okay, thank you. And as you can see here on the screen, we have just written down the web address where you go straight to the Swedish Literature Exchange page.
Maybe we can now, there is another question. So how do translation work? Alltså provöversättning.
Maria?
Sample translations. We have a possibility for translators to apply for this kind of grant for working on a sample translation. It's not open for publishers or agents. It's a tool for the translators to apply for preparing a material they would like to present in their local area for publishers that are relevant there. That's my question, that it's not open for publishers. And one reason for having it open for translators is always also to encourage them in their professional career to have some extra time to work properly on a piece of literature that they really would like to see in their own language.
And yes, then I guess this is from the same person. As I understand, these test translations are initiated by translators.
Yes, that's correct.
We should also add that we also keep a database with resumes for translators who translate from Swedish into other languages. So if you are in need of more translators or new ones, or you have never translated anything from Swedish before, please contact us, because we have a database with resumes that we have also the translators approval to forward to you. So don't hesitate to do that.
Yes, and this person is a translator, not a publisher. And the person also asked, what are the stages and requirements for those?
What are the, excuse me?
Stages and requirements.
Of course, we always wish to work with professionally active translators, but we are also keen to find new talents, young translators, and if they have good recommendations, if they have proper CVs documenting that they are skilled in using Swedish language, we might also approve an application from a new translator. That would be my answer.
Great. Matilda, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, now, wait. Is the support for an event limited to help Swedish authors, or can it be used for Swedish-Finnish authors?
The authors that write in Swedish but are published in Finland, they are sort of taken care of by our colleagues in Finland, Philly. So we only support books that are published by a publisher situated in Sweden. So the answer is no.
Then there is one more question from the translator. And is the application process basically the same for translation grants for stage performance or dramas? For example, you mentioned that you require 4 copies of the book in case of book translation. How does it work?
Yes, the process is the same, but of course if you get a translation grant for a stage performance of a Swedish theatre play in translation, you cannot send any books. But we would like you to send the translation, and also it would be great to have a copy of the program. That could be done digitally, of course. You don't have to send anything by ordinary mail.
And then there is another question. Hello, I would like to ask you about a concrete book. Vitterfitta, written by Maria Sveland. Could this book get a grant, or is it maybe too trivial?
Maria?
As I mentioned, you can always apply, and it is up to the grants committee to make the assessment of the quality of the book. I could not, as an official at the Swedish Arts Council, say yes or no. It's not eligible or not. You are welcome to submit an application and hope for the best.
But as Maria mentioned also in her presentation, you can always go to the website and have a look at this long list of approved grants. We have a list of approved grants since 2008, sorted by author. So it's quite easy to go there and look for the book that you are searching for or wondering about, and see if it has actually received a grant before.
That was the last question, it looks like.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for listening to us for us Thursday afternoon from rainy Stockholm. We would be very happy to answer all your questions via email, but we will be even more happy to meet you So please contact us if you're going to attend the Frankfurt Book Fair. We would love to meet you there. We will be there on Wednesday and Thursday, or just book a digital meeting. We can always take meetings like this online. So with that, I would like to thank you and say goodbye, and I hope to see you soon. Goodbye.
Goodbye and stay safe.